Hi there, Robin here from Expert On. Today we're going to be talking about subwoofers, not any subwoofer. We're going to be talking about a BLASTKING 18-inch powered subwoofer to be exact. It is the BPS18 version 2, so it's a replacement of their original one. It features 1,000 watts of continuous power with 1,200 watts of peak power. Now it's funny how that number plays out. Some other companies would just simply double that number and say 1,000 watts, it's 2,000 peak, but they seem to go with what the designers say and what the engineers say, and that's how the numbers play out for this particular box. Now, we're also going to talk about subwoofers in general, of course, in this video. We're going to talk about how to hook them up, what they look like, why are some of them like this one, an 18-inch, so big, 27.5 inches tall, 23 inches long, and 22 inches wide. That's a displacement internally of 8 cubic feet versus BLASTKING's next series, which is their KXD2, their second generation in the KXD family, which is a much smaller, tighter box. I mean, literally 1.5 inches wrap around that 18-inch. That's all there is. And we'll talk about why some boxes are big, like this one, and some boxes are small, like that one. It's not rocket science, but it does make a difference. This particular product here was designed specifically for mobile DJs, even though it's very big and very heavy. People that like to have big systems at home. Remember, subwoofers are about the most exciting thing you can do as an add-on to what you have, simply for the fact that it doesn't matter how much you invest in your tops, you notice a big impact difference when you drop a subwoofer. Now remember, subwoofers are going to be really defined by what kind of music you like to play. Is going to define also how much bass you're going to get. Because if you have something that's very organic, somebody playing a guitar or a keyboard, you're not necessarily going to have that big drop in the bass. It's not going to really add a lot to your tops. If you play something that was engineered, manufactured in the system, so somebody went into the software and tweaked it and built it and created music from scratch digitally, then you're really going to notice a big difference, which is why if you play music from the 80s and 90s or 70s, that sort of thing, not a lot of extra bass, just more volume pretty much is what you're going to add. But if you play anything from, let's say, mid-90s, 2000 up to now, you'll find that, especially if it's been remixed, it's got a huge explosion of bass. And that's really where these guys live, is in that kind of music. And BLASTKING specifically, when we talk about the brand, they pretty much cater themselves as, you know, a brand specifically for people who like to play music. So that would be DJs, bars, clubs, pubs, places where you're going to take somebody else's music, you know, here's the content, put it through a controller and a mixer, and drop it into the speakers. This is going to make that sound even better. I wouldn't necessarily put this at the front of the line when it comes to a band. I'd probably still look at like an Electro Voice or an Alto or a JBL for that. But when it comes to dance party music, school dance, that kind of stuff, this is the brand that you probably want to take a good look at and say, is this right for me? So why is this so much bigger? Because proportionately, there's a cost value to it. It costs more money because you have to upgrade the driver package and the type of amp plate if you want to make the box smaller, like in the KXD series. You have to have a driver that's designed to be in a smaller enclosure, and then you have to design it so this way it can have more resistance or more tension against it because it's in a smaller enclosure. So with this one here, it's still one of BLASTKING's driver packages in the box, but it's a slightly more affordable one to generate, just by the way, almost the same amount of power as that guy. Bigger box, smaller box. That one, of course, costs more than this guy does because it's a smaller box generating the same amount of energy. So there we go. We'll take a close look at the back, the amp plate on the unit. We'll take the cover off as well. We'll take a look at how the drivers and where the port and where this has extra height to it. And we'll do a quick reference to that guy there and show you why that one's smaller. We're going to save that for a different video because, well, that's a really cool speaker too. And then we'll show how we hook this up to a mixer. So this way, if you have a controller, you can drop it on there. And options, so if you want to be able to control your main music separate from your bass, we'll do that as well. So here we are. Let's take a quick look at the cover. This is what it looks like with the cover off. This is what the cover itself looks like. And the most important thing about it is it was like 18 screws holding the whole thing on. It has a secondary mesh applied to the back. It's a plastic mesh, and it's added there so this way it stops it from vibrating, reduces and creates dampening effect on the unit. So this way we're not getting any noise transfer from the driver onto the actual metal. They've added foam all the way around the subwoofer to dampen any vibrations that you would get from the metal being in contact to the MDF. So since we've said the word MDF, let's finish talking about the box itself. Yes, it is MDF, and it's roughly like 1.5 inches, double walled thick, reinforced everywhere that it needs to be reinforced. Plus, it's also adds, there's particle board and plywood to build the whole unit out, so this way it has rigidity and stiffness where it needs to, and it has cross supports in the unit to make sure that we don't distort the box or transfer any unwanted noise from the inside through the box, and that's usually vibrations and distortion. To make sure that it's good and it's easy to transport, they use threaded, proper, not wood, they use a threaded actual screw to a nut connection in the back. So it's one of these flat inserted press nuts that kind of has a washer built into it. And what happens there is that the speaker is pretty heavy. I mean, that's the whole point. I mean, the box weighs X amount of pounds, and the driver weighs almost as much as the box does. So that's kind of important to know, that you don't want your speaker to fall. I've seen it happen, wood screws, which make for a very affordable manufacturing job, but it doesn't give you any longevity. If you drop it hard once or twice, the driver will literally slide right out of the basket and it'll be out of there. So that's a big thing. So slotted vents at the bottom. Average is 3 to 4 inch round cardboard tube inserts. Lots of manufacturers do it. There are speakers that are in the same box size that use different design or different concepts to get their system built. So in the same box size, it's not a novelty. You do have the Mackie Thump 18-inch subwoofer, which is in the same dimensions, probably even larger than this. And then you also have the JBL Ion in the same dimensions, but on its side. The difference is the way it's vented and designed. In this case, we have two big slotted ports at the bottom, which is probably twice as much air circulation for pushing the actual driver back and forth than we see on a lot of other drivers. So that's what's going on here. That's why this unit is actually 3 inches taller than some of the other units. Next, the driver. The driver is made out of a cardboard material, and that comes all the way to the edge. On the back side, it has been sprayed to give it reinforcement. That's that texture spray, almost like a fiberglass, to make it a lot stiffer. The cardboard loves to make sound. It does a really good job at low frequencies. So a polypropylene is a more durable product, but not as good and reproducing sound as the cardboard. Large dust plate in the center, protecting the actual magnet and the core in the back, because it is very large, so this all has to be large as well. This right here, the black band you see off to the edge, because cardboard comes all the way and it's all molded in to actually allow the speaker to stay perfectly centered all the time, so not to get a distortion out of the whole thing by having it move too much to the left or right, because it's just becoming distorted over time with a regular rubber gasket on the edge. This is going to keep it stable in the center. Now they do add a second coating of a fabric mesh on top of it, and that is attached completely and then spray lacquered on top of it, and that's really to give it extra rigidity and allows it to be at least 3 or 4 times stronger than it would have been without it. And that's, again, because there's going to be tons of travel, so we're going to take a moment. Let's have a look at it actually in action. So here you go. I'm not playing the music over the actual subwoofer in action, simply for the fact that I don't have the rights to play this music on YouTube. I do have the links. We'll put the name of the song up on right now, so you can search for it on Spotify. But this is pretty awesome. It was built for subwoofers, which is what we're talking about here today. So there's a ton of travel. You can't avoid the fact that the speaker is generating a lot of energy, and it does a really good job at it. dB-wise, you can play this sub basically weighted at about 100 dB, no problem. So that's not an issue when it comes to how much energy and how much volume it can generate. Sometimes maybe a little too much, which is good because that means you can back off on it. So let's get back to the box itself and finish off with what we see on the sides before we actually talk about the amp plate on the back. So here we've got our handles. Now the handles are part of the actual box itself. They're molded in. There's lots of place for you to grab onto, and you can also mount wheels onto the back if you really wanted to. Now, The handles are deep. There's secondary boxes built inside the unit, and this is all part of stiffening up the whole box. There's a cross member on there and the whole thing. So really, really nice. You can put wheels on these things. You get yourself some 3-inch wheels that are wide, bushing only. You don't even have to put them on the back. You can put them on the bottom, because we've seen a lot of high-end companies do that now as an add-on, and they just roll it out onto the stage, lock the wheels down, and you're good to go. So nothing really to worry about there if you want to add wheels. Don't be shy about the weight. It is what it is. A good subwoofer is going to weigh around 100 pounds. BLASTKING makes a version of their next series in a double 18 and a triple 18, and of course nobody ever talks about how much it weighs. It's just assumed it's heavy. That's the point. It's a subwoofer. So let's take a closer look at the back, and then we'll follow that up with how to hook it up with a mixer. So here we are having a good close-up look. What we've got here is a 4-inch fan. This fan is only going to operate when the internal temperature exceeds 55 Celsius. So don't expect this on most of the time. You'd have to be running this pretty solid for a long duration. It never really goes off in the showroom here, even if I have it on for 10-15 minutes or even up to half an hour. I really haven't seen a lot of action on this. Now, we also have the power supply located at the bottom, again, for heat transfer and dissipation, and the amp chip power source package is all inside in its own enclosure. So here we go. We're going to go split screen on this now, and welcome to my new GoPro camera. And we're going to be hooking up this mixer to the subwoofer. The first version we're going to go to is going to be XLR outputs and XLR in on the back of the actual unit. We've got 2 of our new cables here from BLASTKING. They're 20-foot cables. Now, these are XLR, and what we're going to do is we're going to be coming main out. This is a traditional standard way of hooking this up. So instead of having our main speakers coming out of our main output on top, we're going to be using XLR cables to go from here. And we're going to go line that up with the back of the subwoofer as the input. Now this is a traditional input setting. So there we go. There's one cable. And now we'll hit the second cable. And now, if I had 2 subwoofers, the second cable would run off, of course, to the other subwoofer. We don't need to hook them both up to the same one, of course. And then the same thing would happen with the tops. So there we go. So, now if I was planning on hooking up some tops that I was going to run full, I don't want to have any cutoff at all on it, I would come up here. If I did want to add any cutoff, so mid-high frequency control output is down here. So again, if you have good speakers but they can't keep up volume-wise, and you want to trim off the bottom end of it, so this way you can put all the energy into the mid-bass and up on the tops, come off of here, no problem. If you have tops that run really well with a balanced power output to this, so proportionally you can hear them all and you're not forcing your tops, then you come off the top. And again, if I had 2 subwoofers, I would only run the right to the right and the left to the left, and that would be that. So now we're going to go to the second way of hooking it up, which is I want to have more control than just adjusting the gain levels on the back of the sub and the gain levels on the speakers to balance it out. Because in this sense, that's what's really going to happen. You're going to do all the adjustments from here, you're going to set it and leave it. You're not going to come back to it later, except for a little bit of tweaking. It doesn't give you any real ability to increase or decrease the bass on the fly while you're actually playing your music. Now, of course, if you're using a controller, it's always good to have a small mixer or something beside it. If you want to have ability like this, if you have a controller that can do it, well then, good for you on that one. So we're going to use slightly different cables for this. These are going to be 1/4 inch to XLR. And what's going to happen here is that we're going to use the 1/4 inch on the control room output on this particular mixer. And by coming off of there and plugging that into the exact same place where we were before, which is the input, and repeating that for the other channel. Again, 1/4 inch control room left. And I'm going to plug that in here. Now we are going to throw the other cables in just so you can see the overall connection. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the XLRs that we had and I'm going to plug them in as well. So this is going to go from here to our main speaker, and this is going to go to our second main speaker. So now our main speakers are here and our subwoofer is here. What does that mean is that when I come over here and I look at my control room levels, I'm going to be able to control the audio coming out of here level-wise, and then the main is going to control the audio coming out of here level-wise. So this is going to give us a really good mix. So if I want to increase the bass, or if I just don't want the tops on as hot, but I do want to increase the sub, I can do that. So now I'm at 40% here, I'm at 60% there, so I'm definitely going to have more bass. Now I can use that to increase and decrease and cut the bass off whenever I want. That's the big plus advantage there. Now, so on some mixers you will have another knob here, which is going to be for your auxiliary option for your AUX, which is your auxiliary output. This particular mixer doesn't have it unless I use the effects send option here. If I plugged only one into here, this would then control what comes out of this knob here proportionately. And so, I mean, we didn't go in that route. Here we just want to have it as straightforward as possible. So we're using this knob here. Control room for these guys. On a Mackie mixer, if you do want to know and you're not going to use the effects, if you used only one cable here instead of two on top, you can just choose where your music is, because I don't need any, let's say our music is on channel 5 and 6. If I don't need subs on, of course, my microphones, I don't want to have any of that on there to interrupt the guests, let's say, and to really throw things off, I can just adjust this guy here, and then that becomes what comes off of this knob down here. But again, if I do that, I'm not going to be using the effects, but I will be able to control which actual line output is going to have the subwoofer attached to it. I can have sub on 2 channels, that's okay, that's not a big thing, but we can do that separately through the effects and these knobs, or I can do it just as a control out option for a control room setup like we have here. And there you go, that's hooking it up. Now different mixers will have it different ways, but the basic rules is like driving a car. You know, turn the wheel to the left, you're going to go to the left. Turn the wheel to the right, you're going to go to the right. Same thing here. If you find the control room options on your mixer, if you find the auxiliary output options on your mixer, those are going to work the same. A lot of options when it comes to effects being either built in or being in an external effects send option are also your way to go. And there you go. That's pretty much all of that when it comes to hooking it up. So there we go. We're going to call this a wrap for this video. I know I said I was going to take the cover off for this one here, but the actual single unit I don't have right now, so we do definitely have to save that for another video. As subwoofers overall go, BLASTKING, because of their tops, are very bassy all on their own, just their tops on their systems, regardless what line of product you buy. So their subwoofers tend to be even bassier than the average brands you're going to see out there. And I don't say average in a bad way, I'm just saying in its price point. So you're going to get more bang for the buck when it comes to heavy bass out of a BLASTKING product because, well, that's the goal of the brand. So they're definitely meeting their expectations when they put out their products. As price goes, it's sweet. So it's like 10-15% cheaper than everybody else that's price competitive too. When it comes to power, bass for the buck, you'd have to spend in some of the other brands up to at least 50% more than this to get it. So don't be surprised when you see that. So you might actually be in this price point here shopping for a KXD and then realize that you can do everything you want with this one here at a better price option. Remember, your big trade-off is, yes, you do get a little bit more power with the KXD2 series than you do with this one, but price is going to be your friend. So if you're looking for something to get started with and you already have 2 tops and you want to add a single 18-inch sub and you want to maximize the amount of bass you're going to get out of it, pretty good way to go. Now remember, if you're a DJ, it's not a necessity, it is a luxury, and it's something that you can dial in and dial out as you see that you need it. Do you have to have it if you're a wedding DJ? No, but you certainly are giving your client more for the actual show, even if you don't use it a lot. You just bring it in to surprise them and give them a little something extra. That's what it's all about. Anyways, we're done with the video for today, so I want to say thank you very much. If you've subscribed, I want to say thank you. If you haven't, please, now's an opportunity, you can hit that subscribe button, hit the bell if you want to figure out what that does, and hit the thumbs up button. I appreciate it. That lets me know I'm going in the right direction. So we'll see you on the next video, and bye for now.